Council. It's Tuesday, October the 17th. It is 7 p.m. And yes, I will turn on my mic. Thank you very much.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. What did I say?
7.
Oh, I'm used to the old time. I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mayor Goodman,
I'm here.
Council President Jones.
Here.
Vice President Robinson.
Here.
Councilmember Cox.
Here.
Councilmember Bullock. Absent. Councilmember Hines.
Here.
City Manager Terry Bovard.
Here.
Finance Director Stephen Bloom.
He's supposed to be online tonight.
Yes. Okay. City Attorney Kirsten Ballou.
Here.
City Clerk Latricia Wright. I am here, and all other staff.
Thank you, ma'am. If you will, let's stand at this time for the opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance by the mayor.
Join me if you will. Lord, we come here tonight to do the business of our community. Lord, we try as best we can to do the things that we feel are the best for our community, and it is at times a difficult thing. But Lord, we are a community, and we are a community that cares deeply about each other. And Lord, our police department and our fire department, they're very important to our community, and we care about their safety, and we ask you tonight, Lord, to keep a hedge of protection around each and every officer, each and every member of the fire department as they respond. Help them to always make the best decisions that they can and keep them safe for us. And Lord, I ask you to be with this council as they undertake the business of the city. Give them the wisdom to make the best decisions that are available. And sometimes those decisions are not easy. I ask all this in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, we will move at this time to item number 1, which is additions, deletions, changes, and approval of the agenda. It has been requested that we table item B, which is on your second page, until a later date. Hearing no objection, are there any other additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda? Not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 2 is proclamation declaring October 16th through the 22nd as Florida City Government Week. Mayor Goodman.
City Manager Bavard, would you please join me? It's called an ambush. Whereas city government is the government closest to most citizens and the one with the most direct daily impact on its residents, and whereas city government is administered for and by its citizens and is dependent upon public commitment to and understanding of its many responsibilities, and whereas city government officials and employees share the responsibility to pass along the understanding of public services and their benefits, and whereas Florida City Government Week is a very important time to recognize the important role played by the city government in our lives, and whereas Florida City Government Week offers an important opportunity
to convey to all the citizens of Florida that they can shape and influence government through their civic involvement. Whereas the Florida League of Cities and its member cities have joined together to teach students and other citizens about municipal government through a variety of different projects and information, and now, therefore, I, Charles Goodman, by virtue of the authority invested in me as the mayor of the city of Williston, Florida, do hereby proclaim the week of October 16th through 22nd, 2023 as Florida City Government Week. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the official seal of the city of Williston to be affixed on the 17th day of October, year of our Lord, 2023. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. So, got it? All right.
He's quick.
Very good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
May I go straight to the second? Thank you.
Sure.
Miss Laura Jones. I have another proclamation. Whereas change is constant and affects all cities, towns, suburbs, counties, boroughs, townships, rural areas, and other places, and whereas community planning and plans can help manage this change in a way that provides better choices for how people work and live, community planning provides an opportunity for all residents to be meaningfully involved in making choices that determine the future of their community. And whereas the full benefits of planning requires public officials and citizens who understand and support and demand excellence in planning and plan implementation, and whereas the month of October is designated as National Community Planning Month throughout the United States of America and its territories, and the American Planning Association endorses National Community Planning Month as an opportunity to highlight how planning is essential to recovery and how planners can lead communities to equitable, resilient, and long-lasting recovery. And whereas the celebration of Community Planning Month gives us the opportunity to publicly recognize the participation and the dedication of the members of the Planning Commission and other citizen planners who have contributed so much of their time and expertise to the improvement of the city of Williston. And whereas we recognize the many valuable contributions made by professional community and regional planners of the city of Williston, and extend our heartfelt thanks for the continued commitment to public service by these professionals. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the month of October 2023 is hereby designated as Community Planning Month in the city of Williston, in conjunction with the celebration of National Community Planning Month, signed under my hand and seal in the council chambers of City Hall on the 17th day of October 2023. Charles Goodman. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, item number 4 is public participation, At this time, we open the floor for the public to come and speak to us on any item that is not currently on the agenda for up to 5 minutes. There's a second opportunity at the end of the agenda, but if you have something you would like to say now, if you'll please approach the podium. Please state your name and city of residency. I know, for the record. There you go.
That's me. Ooh.
Yes, sir.
Golly, there you are. Things crazy. Hi, I'm Marvin Johnson, former business owner here at in City of Williston, but a co-chair of the Friends of Cornelius William Park. So I am back. I have moved my business. I've downsized. But I want to say I have been online watching this. I don't know how to come on and talk, so I need the IT man to probably come to my house and show me how to do some of that stuff. But I want to say I'm proud of the council, everything that's been going on, and I have been watching. And just want to say congratulations to everything, watching the budget and all that stuff, paying attention to things. So just, you'll see me again a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. We did miss you, Mr. Johnson. It's nice to see you.
Yes, ma'am.
As I told you earlier, we did find you. You can't hide. All right. Anything else at this time from the public?
Anyone on the Ring Central meeting wish to speak, unmute your mic and speak up now. Nothing heard.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to item number 5, which is the consent agenda. And it consists of council meeting minutes of October 3rd. Do I have any comments on the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
I make a motion that the consent agenda be approved.
A second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion from anyone? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we'll move to item number 6, which is updates. As I stated at our last meeting, and I promise this is the last time I'll say it, this update section is for your questions regarding updates of items that we may have discussed before or that we may have from community members. At the end, the section called announcements is for announcements. It's not for really question and answer. So at this time, I will start with the city manager, Terry Brevard, and ask him for updates.
Thank you, Madam President. So first I'd like to say is I was kind of caught off guard with the presentation tonight, but I want to thank the city council and most certainly the staff who make the city run the way it does. I get lucky enough to sit in the chair and occasionally make a few decisions, but trust me, it's the men and the women in the field that serve the citizens are the one that truly deserve that proclamation. But thank you very much for giving it to me. But I accept it on their behalf.
Thank you.
I do have a couple of quick announcements, and I'll try to get them the best I can. I think it's this weekend, there's a company called Origis Energy. They are a component of our FMPA and their solar, division. They're actually doing an outreach program here in Williston on a solar farm that they are developing north of Raleigh. And so you may hear some information about that, but they're required to do some community meetings. And they're going to be installing, a solar farm at a place called Whistle Duck Farm. And it's property that was located north of the Raleigh area. I did reach out to them and remind them if they ever needed any additional land, we had plenty at the airport, we would be willing to lease it to them at a reasonable rate.
Do you know how many acres it is, just for curiosity?
I don't
It it may not have said.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I'll be honest with you, Madam President, when I first, there was a little confusion as to who they were and what they were doing originally. I'll be honest with you, I denied the permit only to learn that it's not solar-based for the houses. It's for an actual renewable energy source field. So I don't have all the information on it because we just re-engaged them like yesterday.
Thank you.
But they will be coming this weekend, having their official, I think they have to do so many community meetings before they establish it, and that's just part of their program that they're having. So we will have more on that later.
City Manager,
Yes, sir.
I have a question
Yes, sir.
based on your statement. You said putting a solar array at our airport.
Field. No, what I
No.
did was when I realized that they were offering, they had this land that they had purchased north of Raleigh, and when I realized it was FMPA, it was kind of one of those things that the one side of FMPA really doesn't know what the other side's doing, so there wasn't a lot of communication. So our representative really didn't know a lot about it. Once I realized it was FMPA, which is our provider, I then sent them an email back and said, you know, if you're looking for land, we got plenty. And so I don't think they'll take us up on the offer, but they may. But, you know, of course, we have the airport, and we're willing to lease it at a reasonable rate, all the property out there.
So what you are suggesting is that we would be willing to lease airport property for a solar array? Is that not
Solar panels, like a solar farm.
panels? That's
Yeah.
what I'm referring to as an array.
Yeah.
I've seen some from Duke Energy in place.
Mr. Mayor, would you use your mic, please?
Yeah, I think it would be no different than leasing anything else, any other building out there, any other manufacturer. So,
Well, I would submit to you that is significantly different than any other building because solar panels in an airport area could create a major conflict, and I just hope that we discuss it in great detail before we do a solar or panels
sure.
at our airport property. Thank you.
Yeah, I
None
really
that
don't
I'm aware of.
I don't think they're going to take us up on the offer, but I think they've already moved up north, and that's probably where they're going to go. But thank you for that comment. I will take it into consideration as we move forward. I will tell you also that, as you've noticed, the building across the street is no longer standing, so that one's been taken care of. I inspected the site today, looked good, and they did backfill, removed all the debris, and basically it's looking pretty good. So we do have that. I will tell you also, we have an issue
Sorry.
with,
I just need to ask a couple of questions. I was talking to the foreman of the demolition
finished yet?
people, and they told me that they were going to finish Monday and that DOT was going to remove the cones Tuesday, and that didn't happen, and I actually had somebody ask me today when the cones, two different businesses asked me today when the cones are going to be removed. Do we have any idea when that's going to happen?
Tuesday night. Is that not accurate, Jonathan?
I started to say, if he finished his report, he probably would have told you that.
I thought he was moving on to something else.
I don't think so.
Go ahead.
Talked to Mr. Upshaw from DOT. Acme is behind schedule, so Acme is the contractor they went through, and they're coming hopefully today or tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
But it's on DOT.
Yeah, we originally told it was this evening, because they were finishing up today. So today they officially finished up. The other thing I'll bring to your attention is that we have a well water issue out at the airport. One of the wells went down. So basically the two wells that we have out there, we've had to harvest parts off each other to make one functional well. And basically the cost of redoing or actually fixing that well is going to be about $18,000. So we do have one well that's working, that's potable water, you know, but obviously it's an emergency issue bringing the other one online. We do have a couple of quotes from other individuals as far as what the cost of the equipment would be, but not installs. And the company that we're looking at, Rowe, is basically cheaper than anybody else so far. But it's the same one that we always deal with too, and they're always cheaper. So we're going to be spending some money out the well at the airport.
So that's what happened to the water pressure.
Yep, that's what happened to the water pressure, and that's what created one of the issues with the fire suppression system for Monterey boats. So, in addition to that, there's also, and I'm going to let Laura help me out with this, because I know there may be some additional discussions, but, you know, there's a brownfield issue going on with the Wawa on top of the hill, and basically there's some money out there, I guess, that they can get, Wawa can get, that will help in the cleanup of the brownfield area. So they're actually having a public workshop here on October the 19th at 5:30 in the community room to discuss it. Now, in addition to that, they anticipate coming in front of the city council, this council, and asking for, I guess, 2 resolutions in the form of 2 public hearings. The one they'd like to hold on November the 7th, and the other on November the 21st. That should be held here at the city council meetings, the consider request for the brownfield area designation by B&W Noble and 7 LLC, which is a property located at 650 West Noble Avenue, Williston, Florida. This request requires a resolution, and it comes at no cost to the city. But it does require the city government to pass a resolution during 2 public hearings to approve of this, to have it done. So you'll be seeing more information on that as it's coming forward. But like I said, in this particular case, there's no cost to the city, and it could help with Wawa in their cleaning up of that area up there. Apparently, there was a gas station up there, Laura?
Yes.
And basically, they are looking for some assistance with this corporation in the cleaning it up, and then there's some funding from the feds or the state.
Usually, well, it's both, but
Yeah.
brownfields can be state.
So, but in order to do that, they have to come before this body during public hearings to actually get it approved by y'all.
So the same resolution at 2 separate meetings.
Yeah.
Usually our resolutions are only read once.
Yes, ma'am. The state of Florida, Florida statute, for some reason, wants it to have 2 public hearings, even though it's not an ordinance.
Okay.
It's just part of their
Got it.
Brownfields Redevelopment Act.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that was meeting Thursday, October 26th.
At 5:30, you said?
Oh, yeah, the solar panel meeting is Thursday, October the 26th is actually when it is, here at the community room.
And do you know where it is?
Here.
October 26th?
Yes, ma'am.
Here?
Yep. Do we know what time yet? 5:30.
City Manager Brevard,
Yes, sir.
I know you have moved ahead, but last time when I asked you a question, it's not received by some as well. The water pumps.
Yes.
I have been called by a couple of people that said they were on boiled water notice. Is that continuing as we speak?
Yes, sir, it is. Unofficially, we're hoping to have it off by Monday, but no guarantees.
Okay, so we have a plan, and we can say that we expect to have it done early next week? Expect gives you a way out if it doesn't happen.
No, sir. What it is a boil water notice is typically a 30-day notice.
Okay.
We have never gone over a week and a day, because we get our sample guy out immediately. The boil water notice is through DEP. It's a very stringent thing. There's certain language that you have to put out once you have an issue of pressure below 20 PSI. And then what happens after that is you have to collect samples. Those samples have to come back, check for Bactese. If they come back clear, you can then rescind the notice. Again, the boil water notices statutorily through DEP regulations are supposed to be 30 days. We have never had one since we've been doing them the last 2 years that has lasted longer than a week and a day. So we do really well on that. If you go to other towns, they're out for 4 or 5 weeks. But we have to wait for those samples to come back. That's something completely out of utilities' control.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, that was plenty.
Anything for city manager at this time? Okay. If not, we'll move to the staff. Chief Stiegel.
Yes, ma'am. We are moving toward the end of the year, and we have some important dates we need to set here. One, probably one of the most important that I can see in the month of December, is we generally have 2 council meetings, and we cancel the second one. On December 19th, we have a planned council meeting. Also, we have a fellow in a big red suit that's wanting to come and visit all the children that night. So my question to the council is, are we going to have 2 meetings in the month of December? Or are we going to cancel the December 19th meeting as we normally do, or the second meeting of the month?
I'm good with it, with council on it. It's 5 days before Christmas. I think we can do that. You're smiling at me. Why are you smiling at me?
I'm not smiling. I'm smiling at the irony that I talked to the chief earlier and he didn't tell me about this.
This is not a blind side. you cut your beard off. So we can't
He's not
use
Santa
you.
anymore, so he
No,
doesn't
he's
get
not.
consulted.
Mr. Mayor, would you use your mic, please?
If anybody has a problem with it, I have no problem telling the children in town why he couldn't come visit.
Everybody, please look at their calendar and let me know that the 19th is, Miss Latricia, do you have anything that you specifically know we have to do on the 19th?
No, I was just going to say that this item was going to be on the next agenda, but what you all are discussing now about canceling that meeting.
Oh, very good. So we're meeting ahead. Okay. Anybody have an objection? Because the next meeting is January 2nd, so we're not putting it off very long. Because it's a quick. We'll put that one on too. I actually think I'm coming back to town that day. So, but I should be back by then, if not.
Ms.
Mr.
Hines, would you
Robinson
use your
will be busy.
microphone, please?
Yes, sir. A little bit closer.
Okay, so
Sure.
we officially have consensus to cancel the December 19th, second meeting of December. Consensus? Any objection? I'm not hearing anything.
No objection.
No objection. No objection. Okay, we are officially canceling December 19th. So the man in the red suit can come. All right, thank you very much. Anything else from staff? Remember, this is your chance. Okay, we will move then to the council members. Ms. Hines, you got anything for this?
I do not.
I'm so proud of you. Mr. Mayor, anything at this time?
nothing. Thank you.
Mr. Robinson? Mr. Cox? Oh, come on. Okay. so
Mr.
I-
Cox, would you use your microphone, please?
Oh, come on.
You got a microphone
just did this.
mafia back there.
All right, I have one thing. At our most recent General Employee Pension Committee meeting, which was last Wednesday, we were, I don't know actually if it was there, I think it was, at that particular meeting. Dallas helped me remember, and there were other members, people here who were on that committee as well. If not, it was in between the two meetings, but I was informed by the Laura Underhill, who is one of our senior financial analysts for the Florida Municipal Insurance Trust Pension Plan, that our current plan for the general employees does not follow the state statutes at this moment in a few financial tweaky places. And the reason it doesn't is because when we did our plan, we tweaked the plan. We didn't use their plan. They have a set template plan that they use. Well, instead of using it, we tweaked it. And when we tweaked it, it took it out of their hands. If we had not tweaked it, it would have been for them to continue to update every time the insurance commissioner or the state of Florida changed a statute to meet certain requirements that are held for pension funds. Because we are not a member of their particular plan, but have our own specific plan, those things have not been changed along the years. It was recommended that we change to their plan and put our specific items in an adoption agreement that is part of it as an attachment. I asked her, we already have a copy of the plan as it currently exists. We got that a few weeks ago, a month ago even maybe, so that we could look at it. I've asked her to send me their template that they would use to continue to update us as it needed to be done, so that we can compare the two. I've talked very briefly to the attorney about it. We're going to get both of those documents. We believe that the only thing that is different between those are the things that need to be updated that are required by the state, and the specific things that are to our plan alone, which can be attached as an adoption agreement to that plan. So once that comes in, we're going to look at that, and that will need to come probably back to the board, to the pension committee board before it comes here. But that's something that's in progress that we just know that we have to do. So that's all I have, really. Anything else, Mr. Mayor? Nope. I know I passed you already, but the next one says
have
Mayor.
nothing.
Kirsten, do you have anything? Miss Latricia, anything at this time? All right, so we're going to move then to item number 7, if there's no one else in staff that has anything to add. Discussion of the City of Williston 2022 financial statement and independent auditor's report. Miss Helen Painter of Purvis and Gray. Welcome. I would love one. We've got an electronic copy, but I'd like to have the real thing.
Yeah, I like paper.
Me too.
Thank you.
Always has great pension stuff in it. Speaking of pension stuff.
Good evening. Thank you, Council President, Mayor, and City Council members. I'm Helen Painter, the audit partner in charge of the City of Williston's annual financial audit. The presentation is a little bit later this year. Just a lot of, we couldn't get on each other's schedule. But I would like to point the highlights. You've got 2 documents in front of you. One of them is a bound copy, and the other one is loose. And both of these I'll briefly go over. So the City of Williston is required to have an annual financial audit, and of course your year end is September 30th. We've already passed September 30th, 2023, and so your finance team with Mr. Bloom is in charge of that. He's probably now preparing to close out your accounting records to get ready for your 23 audit. There are a couple things that I wanted to point out. First of all, this was submitted to the Auditor General in the month of in the month of June. So it met that deadline. We also met about 6 weeks ago with your city manager to go over some of our recommendations. If you'll turn to page 1 of this report, of the bound report, this is the independent auditor's report. So when we come out, actually we do it remotely. The audit, we do everything electronically. We make interviews, we do inventory observations, etc. And we work with Mr. Bloom and his team as they provide us all the audit support documentation that we need. But ultimately, we answer to the mayor and city council members. And this is where we are on page 1 giving our auditor's report and our opinion. And we're saying that we believe that these financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. So this is an unmodified, clean opinion on the city's financial statements.
Wonderful. Always nice to hear.
That's good news. If you turn to page 21, the city has 3 governmental funds, which are funded by property taxes, state revenue sharing, and various other fees. And then, of course, this is your general fund, which has the general operations of the city, the Special Revenue Airport Development Fund, and the Special Revenue Community Redevelopment Fund. So, as you know, beginning about 3 years ago, the State of Florida Auditor General's Office requires that your CRA, your Community Redevelopment Agency, have its own separate standalone audit, and we have to do some compliance testing with that, and we presented that audit report last week. So we are required to review your general fund and your airport fund and to ensure we confirm the revenues, we test expenses, we're looking to make sure that people are paid the correct salary rates, etc. We also, with the airport fund, we test the revenues there, make sure that they are in accordance with the required published fees. If you turn to page 23, the first column is the general fund. You'll see that the revenues for the general fund were $2.9 million and the expenses were $3.7. So there was a direct operating loss of $758,000, but then the utility fund supplemented the general fund or paid back for part of the operations, $900,000. So the general fund had an overall net increase of $57,000, and it was also within budget. The expenditures were in budget. But you'll see that the ending fund balance on the general fund is only $747,000, and I want to point that out that best practices in governmental accounting is that a local government have set aside approximately 20 to 25% in reserves to make sure that you have at least 3 months operating reserves set aside, 3 months worth of your expenditures. And we want to point out that we've been asking the city council to look at that your reserves are running a little bit low. We also look at the airport fund, and of course there's always a lot of construction going on with your airport fund, and there's a lot of time lag from these construction contracts that are grant refunded, that you have to put the money out first and then wait for the government to send you the money. So you need to have a little bit of float time there. And we felt like the airport fund also needs to make sure that you keep an eye on those reserves if you want to continue to have construction projects. The CRA, is there. The main thing with your CRA is that the monies are to be set aside for only the CRA area. And so all the funds that go in there can only be spent there, and your focus is on redevelopment based on how much money you have. So those are some of the highlights of your 3 governmental funds. You also have a utility fund, and I wanted to point you to page 26. So the city of Williston is very unique from all cities within the state of Florida that it offers 5 different utilities. You've got water, sewer, sanitation, gas, and electric. And so you're one of the smallest cities in the state, but you offer all of these services to the citizens. So it's very important that, you take care of this fund, make sure that all of the infrastructure associated with serving these utilities, that you have enough operating revenues to cover all the expenses. And you'll see here that there was an increase of $344,000, but of that, $2 million was in grant funds. So we also want to encourage that you charge enough rates to cover your operating expenses. And I know that's something that you go through in the budget process. As you know, you received over $3 million in federal ARPA funds last year, and you began spending some of that money down this past year. The next highlight that I'd like to go over are your pension funds, and that's on page 29. If you want to look at those individually, because this is combined with your police and general employees. So you have 3 pension funds, and you also have 1 deferred comp, one for your general employees, one for your firefighters. Your firefighters are in the FRS state program, whereas your police is in a police pension trust fund that is managed here by the city. And of course, we know with market conditions this past year, both of the pension trust funds throughout all the state of Florida, probably throughout the country, had a large fair value investment loss because of the market conditions. And so your actuaries will be looking at that to make sure that they'll tell you how much to fund it. So just to keep an eye on that might create, until our market comes back, may create additional contributions to that fund. So there's a lot of complex funding requirements and information about your pension trust funds. But if you would like to look at them individually, they are in the notes to the financial statements too. This year, the city of Williston was very active. You had both a federal and state single audit. That means that you received more than $750,000 in federal grant funds and also in state financial assistance funds. So there's a lot of compliance testing that goes with that, and we had no issues with any of those grants. We do have some recommendations. There's been a lot of turnover. We're seeing this in a lot of cities, that people are losing some of their administrative staff. including accountants. And it's difficult to find accountants. We've heard from the University of Florida that the number of accountants graduating there have plummeted. And so we're seeing a lot of delays in getting the audit work out. And so we just continue that. We're working with Mr. Bloom to make sure your accounting records are closed out timely. In this separate document, we would have to point out to you if we had any issues or any difficulties with performing the audit, any adjustments. If you look on page 3, we do have some recommendations with your building department. So it's page 3 of this separate document, near the bottom there. We've noted that with your building department, that your building fees have not been enough to cover the expenses. And so you want to take a look at that because you want to at least break even, making sure that the fees charged to the builders and such is enough to cover staff time, et cetera, and that's been operating at a loss. So I wanted to point that out to you. If you look on page 4, some of the other recommendations, in particular, that I pointed out about looking at your reserves and making sure that those are sufficient so that you have savings for the future. And we have had some problems with your inventory counts, and we're working with Mr. Bloom to make sure that the inventory is counted and reconciled with the accounting ledgers and the sub-ledgers. Okay. So those are the highlights that I have. I was wondering if anyone had any questions or if you'd like me to go a little deeper on any subject areas.
Any questions for Ms. Painter? Any comments you would like to make, Mr. Bloom?
Team, a lot of people, when you think of audits, you're just thinking about numbers and thinking, we'll just take a look at numbers. But these audits require a lot of different support from a lot of different departments, pulling all kinds of stuff, and just any audit is not done without the support from the city staff and Helen and her staff. So just wanted to thank everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We appreciate you coming tonight.
Okay, you're welcome.
Present it.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to say to the general employees, even the police employees and the fire employees, this document has one of the best resources about the pension fund. It talks all about blended rates and all of the requirements for the drop plan. It's got everything that you could find pretty much in this document. It's a really quick resource if you're looking for anything you're looking for, essentially. Okay? Thank you again. We appreciate it. All right, so where are
Have
we?
a safe drive.
Thank you.
Yes, please. Auditor's report. Item B at the top of the next page is the one that has been tabled. So we'll move to item C, discussion with possible action, state revolving fund, request for inclusion, RFI, City Manager Brevard.
Thank you, Madam President. So I'm going to start real briefly, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dennis Davis from Wright Pierce so he can go through a couple of charts for you. But this is, just so you're aware, this is really just an opportunity for us to get on a list to provide us for funding maybe in the future. I want to let Dennis kind of lead off and kind of tell you where we've been, where we're trying to get to, and why we're trying to do the things we're doing with this particular SRF loans and stuff. Dennis?
Yeah, thank you. Dennis Davis with Wright Pierce. And Mr. Mayor, can I borrow your microphone again?
We have to increase revenue, we're going to have to charge you. Hold, push and hold.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, so what we're going to talk about tonight is an application that we would like to submit. It's called a request for inclusion to get on the FDEP's state revolving fund priority list for funding. So are we on page 125? If we could go to, okay, so let's go down to 132 maybe. I thought I had it. Okay, yeah, just that table at the bottom, if you could just bring that up. So I wanted to just remind the council about, you know, how we got to where we're going to talk about today. So, you know, back in January of 2021, we made a presentation to the city council about our infrastructure revitalization plan and the need that we had to upgrade all of the infrastructure here at the city. After that presentation, the city was on board with starting to move forward that master planning effort. And as you see here in July of 2021, the scope was approved to do our master planning effort. In March of this year, we started the presentations. You'll remember we had a series of workshops where we went over the results of our master planning efforts. And then in May of 19, you'll remember, May 19th of this year, you'll remember we had the big funding workshop where DEO came to the city, and we had all the funding agencies that came, and we talked about all the need for funding for our various projects that were identified in the master plan.
And all those scary numbers.
Yes, there were big numbers, that's right. And so that's kind of the history of the things of where we were. Part of that discussion and master planning effort, you'll remember on the wastewater side, one of the big documents that we talked about was historically back in 2013, the city prepared and submitted to DEP a SRF, State Revolving Fund Facilities Plan. Very little of that facilities plan was ever implemented though. You know, there were 2 or 3 projects, small projects out of there that were actually implemented. Part of that, one of the recommendations out of that facilities plan was for us to do what is called a sanitary sewer evaluation survey of the gravity collection system, our sewers that take the wastewater from our houses to the wastewater treatment plant, to determine how much of that pipe needed to be repaired or replaced. And so the idea was to look at the 1940s era and 1950 era pipe. So we're talking pipe that's 70, 80 years old at this time. You know, and it's probably past its useful life, and we're trying to figure that out. So what this proposal does, and what we're presenting here tonight, is it would be a proposal for Wright Pierce to help implement the sanitary sewer evaluation survey, and then update the SRF facilities plan. With that, there is a request for inclusion. There's a document that Ms. Jones, we'd like to have you sign tonight, and it is a piece of paper that we would submit to DEP to get on their funding list to do this work. This work, they would give it would be a 50% grant, 50% loan. You're not committed to that money right now. We're asking for permission to get that signed and submit it to DEP to see if we get on the funding list for this project. So, Ms. Wright, could you go down a couple more pages? I want to show you, yeah, this page, and if you could rotate it. Yeah, and then reduce the size a little bit. This is a little graph that we put together here. And so what this shows, if you look at the x-axis of this graph, there are dates that go from 2015 to present day. On the y-axis there is the flow, the wastewater flow that's going into the wastewater treatment plant. And and that's coming right out of your
I think it got too little.
Yeah.
Yeah, just have to blow it back up. It got little.
Yeah, we need to go down a little bit more.
Right there. No, right there. Oh, maybe not.
I think we're on the wrong page. I think we need to go one more page down. There we go.
There it is.
So that's what the graph is showing. It's showing flow at the wastewater treatment plant over time. When you look at the horizontal lines, we need to go up just a little bit more. The blue line there is 50% plant capacity. The yellow line is 75% plant capacity, and the red line is 100% plant capacity. And so the blue lines that you see going up and down, that's actual flow going into the plant on a daily basis. So you see it sometimes, the blue lines go up above our plant capacity. So if you'll remember, in July of this year, we had a big storm here in the city, and there were some properties damaged, there was a lot of flooding. You can see that we went well above the maximum capacity of the plant. The reason that we see these spikes like that is because the gravity collection system has an issue with infiltration and inflow. And so part of what this project is going to do is try to repair those pipes that are leaking, that the groundwater and stormwater is coming into, so that we can get rid of some of these peaks, so that we preserve capacity at the wastewater treatment plant, and so that we it doesn't cost as much. I mean, when we see those peaks like that, that means that there's clean rainwater or groundwater getting into the sewer system, and then we're paying to treat it. We're paying to pump it there, we're paying to treat it. And so we want to get as little of that as possible in the system. So this project is going to help with that. One other thing I'll point out on this graph, you see the kind of the brown line and the green line. The green line is a yearly running average of what the plant's capacity is. And so you can see that right now, as of today, we are consistently over 50% capacity. And so as we look at development, we're really going to have to start planning very soon for new capacity at the treatment plant. The other thing I'll point out is that you see where at the very end on the right-hand side, the dotted lines that go up. What that represents is based off of the known development that's coming in, if all of those houses were to start producing wastewater today, we would be up at over 75% of our plant capacity. So we've developed a tool for the city to use that we can actually track as houses come online. We take them out of that and we kind of track where this is. So this is theoretical. I mean, we don't know that. I mean, we have two, I think, plats on the agenda tonight. You know, over time, I mean, they're in this, they're considered in this, but we're not 100% sure they're going to come online. So, you know, it shows it, but we do have time before that happens. So, so again, you know, in this package is the request for inclusion to DEP, and ultimately we need to submit that within the next few days. DEP will make a determination on their priority funding list on November 8th of this year, and so we want to get that on. And again, this is the first step in the process. It's the planning phase. DEP has told us that when it comes to the construction phase, which would be next, we would get a 80% grant, 20% loan on that future work.
Thank you for that great explanation.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on that graph, but I just wanted to kind of express to you, you know, what this project is trying to do and the importance of it from the wastewater treatment plant.
Any questions for Mr. Davis? I think you did a great job of explaining it.
Thank you.
And this amount that we are looking at for the loan is for the testing of lines?
Yes, it is for what we call the sanitary sewer evaluation survey, which is going in and inspecting those lines.
Right.
And it's for the preparation then of the facilities plan, the follow-on facilities plan based off of the results of that survey.
Okay.
So, Madam President?
Yes, sir.
Yes, one question. So Dennis, the inspection that we're talking about doing, does it include any of the repairs that we would need to do to those highways to get back to the wastewater treatment facility, or it's just simply inspection?
It's just the inspection at this time.
Okay.
So we would come up, you know, our plan would be to come up with the most cost-effective way of replacing or rehabbing those pipes. Mm-hmm. A lot of them could be lined, so we don't have to necessarily go out there and do a bunch of digging. It's what we call trenchless repair, so we're not digging trenches to replace the pipe. That's what we'd be looking at, coming up with a recommended plan on how to move forward.
I thought it was interesting that they would clean them out to a certain extent in order to get the cameras through.
Yes.
Which I thought was, and dispose of everything that they cleaned out, which I thought would be helpful as well.
Oh, yeah, it is.
All that's included in this particular stage.
It's amazing when you see the inside of some of these pipes. You
Could
get
imagine.
roots that grow into the joints. You get, you know, parts of it that fail, and a lot of dirt that falls into them.
Right.
So yeah.
So that part's included.
Yes.
Just the light cleaning
Yep.
and that they have to do to get the cameras and all through.
That's correct.
Which I thought was cool. All right, any other questions? There's no resolution here, so I guess we're going to do this by Mr. Fuller.
Just a question, you said it's an 80-20 grant. How much money are we talking about?
Well, this phase of it right now is going to be a 50-50 grant loan, and this phase of the work is just shy of $400,000. Moving forward, when we finish this study phase, we'll have an idea of what the construction looks like, and we'll come up with a plan for that.
Great question.
And that's the 80-20, that's correct.
Okay. So
But this tonight is just to get on the list.
This is, yes, just permission for Ms. Jones to sign the request for inclusion so that we can submit it to DEP this week.
Okay. And like I said, there's no resolution, so let's have consensus.
No problem.
You want to vote? Okay, so let's have a motion, if somebody will.
I make a motion that we allow the president to sign the request for inclusion on the clean water priority list.
Have a second. Thank you. Thank you. Have 2 seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis, and everybody else that's worked on it. Okay, item D, Resolution 2023-82, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, approving a proposed preliminary plat for a major subdivision, Laurel Point Phase 1, or Book 1517 and page 888, parcel 04332000000, into one commercial lot, 15 residential lots. Ms. Jones, this is a quasi, so we're going to start. First of all, I have read the case title. I would ask if any, Laurel Point is the one that wraps around Winn-Dixie. I would just ask all council members to please disclose any ex parte communications they may have had with anyone involved in this project.
None.
Of course, we all know where it is. We pretty much drive by it every day. Other than that, that's the extent of my, it's not really communication, but it's visual. Okay, hearing none. At this time, if you plan to speak to this, please raise your hand, stand and raise your hand to be sworn in. Ms. Wright, please swear them in.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, I should advise you that at this time, if you have anything to turn in the way of exhibits, diagrams, photograph, or any physical evidence, you should turn those in to the clerk, so she will keep them for up to 30 days in the case we have an appeal. And at this time, I'll ask the staff for an opening statement.
Thank you. I made my resolutions a little bit more detailed. I know it's a long thing to read, but we're having a little bit of trouble finding backup for some, so we're trying to put everything that we can into these so that we know exactly where the properties are when we come back and look at it in 50 years.
Yes.
Laurel Point Phase 1 falls under the description of a major subdivision. And this is a PUD. Remember, we saw this PUD, so that we have mixed zoning. We have some residential and we have some commercial. They've asked us to bring ahead this preliminary plat so they could start site work on one phase. The project as a whole was too much, and they're going to start off of 41 and work their way west. So right there at the corner will be, I don't know what that is.
Hold on, let's get rid of that.
It's okay. Right there at the corner will be the commercial lot, and then we'll have 15 residentials behind it. Do you guys have the maps Do you see?
Yes.
Okay, because I do have a big one.
It would be nice to have the bigger one because the one we have is in 2 sections. I mean, I don't know that you're going to pass it around, but maybe we could share them. The one we have in our packet shows part of it on one end and part of it on another end. It's kind of hard to kind of. And so this, what we have in our packet's only phase 1?
Yes, ma'am, we're just going to do phase 1 for now. They'll come back. This is so that they can get started on the project.
Okay. All right, continue if you will.
Okay, so
I will.
the project is located behind the Winn-Dixie. It abuts to Highway 41, Southwest 7th Street, and US alternate 27 with a general location of 80 Southwest 7th Street, Camellia Plantation. Inc. is the owner, and Stephen McMillan with McMillan Surveying is the agent. Laurel Point Phase 1 consists of 3.253 acres and 16 lots. One's commercial zoned, consisting of 0.84 acres. Ingress and egress to the development is located off of US 41 and Southwest 7th Street. Now, in the end, there'll be another ingress and egress off of 27 because it will wrap around eventually. But this will be the only way in for now.
I know it's not part of 27, part of phase 1, but is there another commercial piece on the 27 side?
There will be.
Okay.
Well, that's the plan. That's
I
the plan.
remembered that, and I was just, when it said 1 and 15, I just wanted to make sure that it was a second one on the other.
Right, so we're only looking at this phase 1 right now.
Right.
And they're going to be doing some of the drainage for this part and some roads, but they're not going to be going up around that corner to do the residential or that second lot for the commercial. Does that make sense? We'll have 2 commercials, one at 27 and 141. This time? No. Oh, I misspoke. So Lot B will be worked on during phase 1.
Lot what?
Lot B, the other commercial lot off of 27 will be worked on.
Okay, so it shows on the other map,
Mm-hmm.
on the next
That's why
one.
you have the 2 maps.
Yep. Must have been above it, Tricia.
So this is gonna be done in 6 phases?
6?
Yeah.
It really remains to be seen. What they'll do is, depending on how they sell and how much money they can put back into it, how they can finish the utilities, will kind of determine that.
I was just trying to understand, on the application for the subdivision, the preliminaries. You have the one for April 2023 and then September of 2020. But it looks like the, sizes decreased for the acreage or for the lots? Did they decrease or?
Yes, they did.
Okay. And it says 6 phases.
Okay, continue with your report.
So easements have been put in place on the plat to accommodate electric, utilities, water, and sewer. It has not yet been decided if the development will request gas. Easements, tracks, and right-of-ways will be dedicated to the public. Common areas and drainage easements will be conveyed to a homeowners association. We already did the land swap, remember that a couple of months ago? So that we could get these roads straight. So this has been to planning. We actually had an emergency planning meeting last night because we didn't have a quorum and we have these 3 plats that are waiting. We wanted to get these through in October. Do you have any questions for me?
I guess not right here. I got to follow my little list here. Do you have any witnesses or any other evidence that to be presented by staff?
I don't have any witnesses.
Okay. And would the applicant like to make an opening statement, please?
Hello, it's me again, Steve McMillan. Laura, all the reiterations that we've done with the PD, we've changed the PD and planning and zoning has seen it for quite a few years. Has that gone in front of council too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is our first that I know of, planned development, planned unit development, whatever you want to call it, where all the things were hashed out with the zoning and the size of the lots and what road's private, what road's public. And we're coming forward with what we would call phase one. Ultimately, how many phases they'll turn it into, I don't know. There was an engineering plan that showed it in 6. Originally, we'd looked at 4. There was several iterations, but the PD for the whole place has already been approved. And now we're just kind of formality coming through with the plats so they can get going on permits and building roads.
Do you have any witnesses to call?
I do not have a
You
witness.
do not have any witnesses other than yourself. At this time, I'll ask then if there's any testimony from the public they would like to add. We'll get into discussion in a minute. And anybody in the public who'd like to make comment? Yeah, absolutely. If you will, please come to the microphone, state your name for the record.
Are these townhomes? Are these modular units? Individual homes on .05? They're called pocket homes. Pocket homes. Okay. So what's a pocket home?
Have you been to Hale Plantation
I have not.
at all? That's pretty much what they have there.
Okay.
They are like a townhome, sort of,
Okay.
except they're detached.
Okay. So one bedroom, I'm assuming, or?
What they're building themselves, my lots, I don't know.
You don't know.
Originally, it was 1s, 2s, and 3s, but there have been some modifications because we started out with garages, and now I don't think we have garages.
So now we have 2 parking spots for each one up front.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an apartment complex. The goal is to have more garden areas than concrete. So it started out with city manager Jackie brought this to my client. My client thought it was a great way to intermix housing that's small. It's not aiming for large families.
Right.
It's first-time home buyer and maybe retirees.
Right. Okay. I asked just, I'm curious what the traffic, the number of vehicles that we would anticipate each house having that would be coming out onto the roads. That's why I was curious how many bedrooms and how many individuals we would expect to live in these. So,
I would assume 2 per, at least.
Yeah. There's space for parking for 2.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Anybody else in the public have any comment to make? I guess at this time, we'll have a closing statement from the applicant, if you have one.
Not really. It's been talked about for a few years. This does have the commercial on 41 and the commercial on 27. Obviously, when it's completed, you'll have a loop from 41 all the way around. This will be private inside. First Avenue extension comes from the hospital at that kind of weird angle. So we've lined it up with that and kind of brought it in. From the commercial standpoint here, Lot A, that is public, but the rest of it will be a private roadway. So the city will not have any maintenance issues there. At one point, there was a connection. There's been several iterations. There was a connection to Winn-Dixie to help alleviate some issues there at the McDonald's entrance and the old Radio Shack, but that got nixed
Yeah, I think Winn-Dixie
along the way.
is not in favor of it.
We couldn't, yeah.
Yeah,
There's-
Aldi's may think differently, but Winn-Dixie definitely
There's
didn't want
2
it.
foot between, 2 footage between the curb on the south side of Winn-Dixie and our property line, but we don't have the right to cross that.
Right,
So,
good grief. Okay, any closing statement by the staff?
No, ma'am, just wanted to remind you that Planning and Zoning reviewed it on October 16th and recommended to City Council for approval.
Okay, if you will, we'll have discussion now from the council, and they may have some questions for both of you. No? It looks to me like the number of lots is less than when we saw it last. Am I making that up? I want to say it was 60-something before, and now it looks like 48.
I don't know when you saw it last. I've seen this so
I
many
know, I'm sure
iterations
you have.
for probably 4 years.
Yeah.
I've been working on it.
Been a long time.
I
Is that what
thought
you
we
think so?
lost some lots because of retention, but then I thought we gained some lot with the reconfiguration. So
I think you did lose some lots.
I don't know if I can answer that
Mr.
one.
Barber's telling me that he thinks it's been reduced as well.
Well, we had to reduce a little bit for stormwater.
Okay, that's a good thing. All right. And again, this is phase one as we're seeing it on this map, but it's got a section B that goes up.
Yeah, there's a lot, I called it, to the west or the left side of, say, lot 15. That's a tract. So tract E wraps around, and that's really what we're using for a drainage ditch to get the water from the residential that we're trying to build up and over to the retention, kind of near Camellia Plantations
I
retention.
see A, B, and C, but I don't see that one on this particular map. It's not there. Oh, there, well, maybe.
This is the end of the residential. This is phase, this is lot 15.
Okay,
This is tract E. It's gonna be just vacant land with a giant ditch in it that's moving all the water. So as we go to the next phase, this will be piped, and this ditch will remain. Then the next phase, this will be piped. Somewhere in this phase, there's a lift station we'll dedicate to the city. And then as we keep going along, this ditch will disappear. So right now, I had to include this in the plat, even though it's not a part of the plat. It serves a utility function because of this ditch.
anybody else have questions? Questions for anyone?
Ms. Jones, what about the existing concrete block home that's on the property?
That's going to stay.
That's on lot 11. Can you go, for me it's down, I don't know.
It is down about two or three pages.
So if you look at lot 11, it's a little bit bigger.
Yeah, lot 11's a little bit bigger. That's where we designed that Mr. Henry house. It looks a little weird now, but it should look, must look weird for about 20 years, but
So it's going to get surrounded.
it's gonna get surrounded and fenced and whatever that they're doing, but but yeah, Mr. Henry built that because he could get to the hospital in Winn-Dixie. He was older. And then when he passed, it just looked like an oddly placed house.
Yeah. Okay, so any other discussion before we consider the resolution? All right, so we will consider resolution 2023-82.
I'll make a motion, we approve Resolution 2023-82.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion from anyone? All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item E, a resolution 2023-83, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Williston, Florida, approving a proposed preliminary plat for a major subdivision, Towns of Williston, or Book 1582, page 858, parcel number 051000000, into 58 lots. And again, quasi judicial, so we will start with any ex parte communication that you may have regarding this project. Hearing none, I will ask those that intend to speak to the issue to please stand and be sworn in.
Do
That's
you
right.
swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give today is the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, the clerk will take into custody anything that you bring to us tonight that is not already in our packet, any exhibits, diagrams, photographs, or any other evidence. She will hold that for 30 days in case of appeal. I will ask the staff to please do their opening statement. Ms. Jones, you're on.
Thank you. The Towns of Williston falls under the description for a major subdivision and must follow Chapter 56 of the Williston Code of Ordinances. This project is located on Southeast 4th Street and Southeast 12th Avenue. Now, you guys have seen this property a couple times because you recently, well, a couple years ago, annexed it in. And then we also had to change our ordinances so that we could have townhomes. Remember, we had a long discussion about wanting people to be able to own their own townhomes. And this is the first step in getting that kind of development into the city. So these will be townhomes. The whole property is 5 acres, and it'll be 58 lots. The ingress and egress is only going to be off of Southeast 4th Street. There's going to be one. Easements have been put in place in the plat to accommodate electric utilities, water, and sewer. They are opting out of gas. Easements, tracks needed for a lift station and right-of-ways will be dedicated to the public. They do need to upgrade the lift station, and they currently have engineering to do that. And common areas and drainage will be maintained and managed by a homeowners association. So, do you have any questions from that? So they do have a couple amenities. They have a playground. They have a lot of green space. Of course, some of the green space is retention. They will be putting in a sidewalk for us because we are really close to a school and we wanted to include that.
Okay, so do you have any witnesses?
I don't.
For yourself? Okay, I will ask the applicant, I think you're representing the applicant, to make an opening statement.
Steve McMillan. I am here again. This is another new word for us. So far we've had homeowners association, plan development, and now we have townhomes. So this is all new. It's going to bring people to town. Yes, don't shoot me. I'm not the bad guy. This is all what's in our zoning and what we're looking forward to. These roads are going to be private, though. We're not going to dedicate them to the city.
Yeah, the interior roads. Did I
Yeah.
say they were going to be dedicated?
Yeah.
Yeah, just the lift station.
Just the lift station, yep, at the northwest corner will be dedicated to the city. It's just another project. They've been working on this one for a few years, and when they came to me and said they wanted to do townhomes, I said, well, we don't have that option, and Laura walked them through it, and here we are.
Okay, do you have any witnesses for us tonight? All right.
do not.
I would ask at this time if the public has any comment they'd like to make. Come. If you will, state your name again for the record.
Yeah, sorry, I don't think I did that last time. I'm Meredith Martin. I live on 2nd Avenue, right by the Christian school, right off 4th Avenue. And I have some real concerns about this development. 4th Avenue is already a very narrow road. The average household in the state of Florida has 2.3 vehicles per house, and that's more in rural areas, less in urban areas. So we can probably safely assume they're going to be approximately 3 cars per household, times 58 homes. You guys can do the math. That's almost 200 cars in the morning going up 4th Avenue, and 200 more cars in the afternoon coming down 4th Avenue. That's a lot of traffic, and all those cars are going to end up at the stoplights, backed up. You've already seen, I'm sure you guys are on Levy County word of mouth, how upset people are that they have to wait at this stoplight. And the problem with people waiting at stoplights and thinking they're going to be late to work is then they get on 121 and other roads and they go fast and they do foolish things in the fog and they pass on double yellow lines. And anybody who's driven to Gainesville in the morning knows exactly what this experience is like. It's death-defying and people die. Not only that, but the reason I live in this community, I've always lived in small communities. I've been here for 10 years. And the people that move here and live here, we do so because it's a small community and we like that. The people that have stayed here because they were born here, they stayed here because it's a small community. If I wanted traffic and to wait at stoplights, I'd live in Ocala or I'd live in Gainesville. I wouldn't live here. And I really think it was very interesting listening to Mr. Davis talk about how our infrastructure is not ready to deal with this. And I'm very worried that the city of Williston is putting the cart before the horse and thinking that these subdivisions coming in are good. And I understand we need more housing, we need more affordable housing, but I don't think we should do it at the cost of our small community and the small community feel that we have here in this town. And I just think we should think about what all of those cars on a little tiny narrow, you know, not subdivision, but community road by a school is going to do and what that's going to feel like. And if this town is going to feel like a small town anymore after we have, I mean, this growth is inevitable. It's coming. But changing the character of our town, that we have control over. And we can definitely think about how the character of our town changes by how much people and the infrastructure. And do we build the homes first and then deal with the problems afterwards? Or do we think progressively and say, you know what, let's think about what all these people are going to do and come up with systems, circles, whatever we need to do to keep our roads and our communities feeling like a little small town. So anyway, I hope you guys will pause on this and not just rubber stamp these developments through. I know a lot of hard work has gone into them, but we're not ready. And Mr. Davis pointed that out, and I think the woman who is here talking about our budget also pointed out we don't have the money. So I hope you guys will just maybe pump the brakes a little bit. Thanks.
Thank you, appreciate that. Okay, closing statement by the applicant.
Yep.
Yep.
It's not so much a rubber stamp. It's in the code. It's allowed. It's either going to happen now, it's going to happen next week, it's going to happen smaller lots, bigger lots. There's nothing that says that we have to address all these, that there's no way to just stop it now and say, well, no new subdivisions. Now, if y'all do it, that's fine, but it has to be in the code to say that. But yeah, a lot of work is going into this to get it to this point, but I don't have anything new to say, no. It's
Okay. Closing statement for the staff.
The approval of the development complies with the Land Development Code for major subdivision. Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed it on October 16th, 2023, and recommended to City Council for approval.
Okay. All right, discussion by the city council. Mr. Robinson.
Was there a traffic study done on 4th Street? Because you're looking at approximately 145 people in the 58 townhomes and approximately, give or take, 116 vehicles here. You have one street. Has there any consideration been coming out on 316, putting another ingress and egress on 316? Or is it just 4th Street?
It's just on 4th. Now, I can't tell you all those people are going to go north on 4th. I would assume they're
No,
going
I
to go.
can't say that they're all going to go. They may
There's-
come on 316, they may
there's
go
three
left or
directions,
right.
yeah.
Or they may go down 4th Street here. That's why I'm asking if there has been any type of vehicle,
So
if there's any
respectfully, we
study.
typically don't do a traffic study for a development this small, but we can absolutely ask the not the applicant, but the property owner to do so. But it's not going to make much of an impact.
What's not going to make an impact? The vehicles?
The
If-
vehicles.
Excuse me, if you want to speak, you got to come back to the thing, I'm sorry. Just for the record, that the microphone is there and it
Sorry.
records.
Yeah, I'm just
Thank you.
curious why you don't think that that many vehicles going onto 4th Street's going to have an impact.
I'm sorry?
I just don't understand.
It's not an impact in the way that I can control it.
Okay.
So a traffic study is only going to tell us the level these streets are, and it's not going to have an impact. I just know from experience. But I can ask them absolutely do a traffic study.
So can you clarify, when you use the word impact, what are you referring to?
We're talking about the level of service of the street, and we have a minimum level of service of a C. And it's not going to bring down, a small development like this is not going to bring it down below a C.
Okay.
But I can do a traffic study.
So what you're saying is that those additional vehicles will not impact the traffic on 4th Street?
It's not really a traffic study in that respect. They're not going to ask you what time you leave and see what time everybody else leaves. What they're going to do is see how much more traffic is going to go on that road and if it's going to impact the structure of the road and the flow of the road.
Okay, well, that would be useful information to have, right?
Yes, but I just know that this is a very small development and it's not going to have an impact that you guys think it's going to have. It's not going to show up in a traffic study. You may see it in the morning.
Okay.
But it's not going to show up in a traffic study. But we can ask them to do one.
Thank you.
So my question is, where'd Mr. McMillan go?
He's right there.
Mr. McMillan, oh, hi, you're hiding from me.
Traffic jam.
And also, Miss Jones, this particular property, if we know that it fronts 4th, what other streets may it front? Any? Does it touch any other egress and ingress?
No, there's one ingress and one
Well,
egress.
Yes,
Well, I know that's what you're telling
yeah.
me is in the plan, but I'm asking if there could be, if there is another available location.
What would be the
we front
purpose?
316 on the south, so we're on two paved roads. They
On the
just-
south, so below on the
Yeah.
picture,
Southeast 12th, it's straight across the street from Kirby Farms.
okay. So to the south,
Why would they want another one?
Kirby Farms, tennis courts, school.
and the common area for green space, is that a retention area or is it just green space? The large spot in the back is the main retention? Okay. All right, so would it, and I guess part of the traffic study she's asking for, would it be dangerous to pull out on 316? And have another egress and ingress?
I don't
know
think
the
any of
traffic-
us are experts on that.
I have no idea. I don't even know if you had a traffic study, what to compare it to. It would give you a bunch of numbers. But what do you compare it to say that?
Well, why didn't they put one on 316? Another?
We can ask
Ingress
them
or
to if
egress?
we
No.
want to.
Well, Donald's going to explain to you the difference between private and public. Swear him in.
Private and public what?
Streets.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
During conversations with the developer, one of the conversations was what emergency services role was, what the city's role was. You have streets within this HOA development, and the reason why it was determined by the developer and the city and staff to only have the 4th Street entrance was not to allow traffic to be able to go through it, and to make sure that it stayed under the control and the responsibility of the developer. So if you start getting into conversations of dumping traffic onto 316, then the city's going to have to start taking some responsibility possibly for the maintenance of sidewalks and streets and all these other types of things. And to avoid that, we wanted to make sure that there was basically a one entrance. They're basically putting a gate. It's a secluded neighborhood. If you don't live there, you're not going to go through there. That was the mentality of why it was designed in that fashion.
Okay, if it's going to be a secluded neighborhood, why don't they put up gates right there on 4th Street, and why don't they put up gates on ingress and egress here that would come out on 316?
They're not going to put up gates at all.
That's what I'm saying, but you said it was going to be a secluded neighborhood. If they wanted it that private, that secluded, and to take away most of the traffic that's on 4th Street, put up a gate so only the residents can get in that way and off of 316 and put one on 316.
They would probably love that. Again, it was staff's recommendation so
Yeah,
that they
sorry,
took
sorry.
responsibility for the interior of the development. It was cost savings for the city.
That's what I was hearing.
Wait a minute.
That's what I was hearing too.
If you put up gates right there, then the city...
They don't want to put up gates. I mean, I don't think they plan to put up gates.
If they put up gates there, what you're saying is, then those streets would be the city's responsibility. Is that right?
No, sir. What I'm saying is, like, for example, if you talk about the question of law enforcement came up, and jurisdiction, and streets. Terry was there at one of the points. This conversation came up. Who had jurisdiction? So if you open up entrances and you open it up as a thoroughfare, it changes the mentality of enforcement. And that's the question he'd have to answer because he was in that part of it. But what we talked about, again, was making sure that everything inside of it stayed as part of an HOA and remained their responsibility. And again, that's why we did not encourage access to 316.
So if they put up gates and you have 2 entrances or 2 exit right there, what you're saying, that takes away their responsibility?
No, that's not what I'm saying. They do not have any interest nor under any obligation to do those things. So when they offered to take responsibility for the sidewalks and the streets and make it their responsibility, the condition was that they didn't want multiple openings to development. It also changed how they could position the units and how many units they could get into the development.
Well, I would just comment that it's going to be private property anyway. So it's going to be theirs whether we open it up or we don't. It's a townhouse complex. They're not our streets.
I understand that.
It's a
yes,
parking
ma'am.
lot,
Essentially. Again, the conversation was, if you have an opening in and someone can drive through it and pop out the other side, you're going to have far more traffic going through. And then they were very reserved to having it to where they didn't turn over the streets to us at that point because it will increase the traffic in the neighborhood.
That's why I don't understand. If you put up gates there, only the residents can get in and out. I just don't.
I don't think they have any desire to put up a gate.
Well, I know what you're saying. They don't want to do that, go through the
No.
expense to do all that stuff, and I understand all that.
But when I think about other neighborhoods or other subdivisions, I think of, they go in and out in more than one location. I mean, even.
Yes, they are at Laurel Point too, and those are remaining private streets. But again, that's an agreement that they made with us. They could
Only
have.
because we asked them to.
Correct.
Well, maybe we shouldn't have asked them that.
What do you mean for Laurel Point?
No, the one we're talking about.
Oh. Council wants to take on more financial responsibility, that's.
It's a parking lot. It's no financial responsibility. It's their parking lot, not ours.
What financial responsibility of the city are you talking
It's
about?
not a street, it's a parking lot.
I'm asking, what financial responsibility of the city are you talking about?
They can potentially turn over things to the city. If they name that a street and turn it over to the city, it can become our responsibility.
I'm not talking about naming any of that a street.
They've got street names on this map.
Well, that's what they put in there. The city don't need to put in a street name on the thing, just to have two entrances.
So where exactly would you like the second entrance so that we can take it back?
I have no idea. You're the planner.
That's why I asked where it hit.
I don't want one.
What's on the backside of it?
I don't want one.
Mr. Mellon, what's on the backside of it? Meaning the north side.
The north side,
Yeah.
we don't own any land north of this 5-acre square.
And there's no road of any kind. What's
No,
there?
that was all, Mr. Orlando owned all that wooded area up there.
And it's still wooded? That's what it is?
Right.
And on this, what they've got as Southeast Fifth Street, there's no connection to a road or anything up there? That's all wooded?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a dead end?
Right.
But if you go down the other way on Southeast Fifth Street, that
Southeast-
comes on 316.
It does.
Right.
And so does this Southeast Fourth Court.
Madam President?
Yes, sir.
So I probably need to be sworn in to clarify one issue, if
You don't need to be sworn in, you're one of us.
All right.
Sorry. Is that not right?
Because he's not a member of the council.
Okay, sorry.
All right, it'll be real brief.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Terry Bavard, City Manager. So the question came up as to public or private streets, and I can see my esteemed colleague sit back there and Jake Lowe hold his hands up. The question was whether or not, what kind of law enforcement, what could you do as a law enforcement officer on a private street as compared to a regular city street? And you're very limited on what you can do on a private street in the sense of how you apply the law. As an example that I always use is that you're not allowed to operate a vehicle anywhere in the state of Florida while under the influence, period. It doesn't specify street, roadway, field, it could be anything. So, but you can, those streets inside there, if they're trying to enforce some sort of traffic law and they're private, we would have no more authority to enforce laws there than we would behind Tractor Supply. And that was the discussion that we had. Correct me if I'm right, Chief. You're right. That's the discussion we have about the private roads. But I wanted to make sure y'all understood that. That was the conversation between private and public, and that was the conversation.
That sounds like
we
a bad thing to me.
It depends. If I had a gated community, it's a great thing, because I can shut the gates and if somebody comes in there, is not allowed to be there, the homeowner association president can say, I want this person off our property, and basically, or tenant, and if they fit the criteria, the police officer come in and do their job, and I think we even covered that. And the person can be removed from the property if they have no right to be there. If it's a public street, in other words, if we did take it over, then obviously the public could access it, you really couldn't stop them. I will tell you with the ordinance we have that we passed a little while back, every street that we build within a public, private, whether it's either way street, is all built to the same standard if we ever have to adopt it. So building the roads is an example. We have one here in town that we did not take.
Right.
This one nor Country Lane Estates or any other one from this point forward will be built any less standard than what any other street we have here in the city. So I just wanted to make that clarification. That was the conversation that we had. I don't know, and there could be an engineering, we could take a look at an engineering traffic study. There may be an issue having a second entrance so close to 4th Street. I don't know that. On 13th Street, and we won't know till we actually take a look at it. I'm not a traffic engineer, Mr.
No, we're
Mayor.
not experts. We'll just have to take it back to the engineers.
To me, this reminds me of if you drive on 62nd in Gainesville. All those apartments with 2-story ones, they've got stuff like that. One entrance in, one entrance out. There's no gates or anything like that. I see this as the same way. And they got a lot more places up there than what this is. So that's how I see this.
At the ingress and egress, is there a light?
Nope.
No,
No.
and it's actually fairly common with that type of development.
Right. Just right there, when you first come off of 20th to make a left or right, whichever, and go on
I'm not familiar with
62nd.
that area, but.
You go right up to Rockwood Villas, The View. Some of them's changed names recently. But it's the same way.
Does it come out on a 4-lane road?
It does.
Nope.
No?
Nope.
Okay,
Nope.
that's not where I think it is then.
Comes out on a 2-lane road.
And traffic is horrible.
Yeah,
Traffic is always horrible.
yeah. Well, that's what we're trying to prevent. Yeah, that's what we're trying to prevent. And I know, I hear you saying that you'd rather it be a private road so we don't have to maintain it, but at the same time, you don't have jurisdiction. I don't think it needs to be a private road if you don't have jurisdiction. We need jurisdiction.
You also have to deal with loitering then, because if it's a
That's
public
okay.
street.
If somebody calls and says somebody's loitering, we need to go check it out.
Okay. The other issue is there are other conversations about having one entrance and lift stations, and there's other questions as to the gas buyout. A lot of this stuff is interconnected. So when these conversations are had with the developer, a lot of these things are contingent in other areas and change some of the relationships with some of those aspects as well.
And that being said, the developers don't live here. You have a citizen who is voicing concern.
And it
we
may not-
really need to
I agree.
take that into account as well, instead of just looking at what the developers are talking about doing, because they don't live here.
Yeah,
And
yes,
and
ma'am.
it may not be what the standard of living is that we want to have in our community.
Now,
If you will, yes, ma'am. It's just for recording
Yeah,
purposes.
no, thank you. The property that's in an L, I think you said a gentleman named Mr. Orlando owns it, that's in the L
No,
around.
there's somebody
that's-
from Williston that owns that one.
Yeah, it's in an L. I think we can all look at this and say it's inevitable that that will also ultimately be subdivided. And guess what? All of those people are also going to spit out onto 4th Street. And so that's a much larger tract of land. So the standard that we set now is the standard that the next people are going to say, well, you let those folks spit out onto 4th Street. Why shouldn't we also be able to spit out on 4th Street? How many cars is that going to be? And what's going to happen to 4th Street? Are we going to widen it? We're going to knock down all the trees and put, I mean, this is why I'm here saying I'm concerned about this 58 homes, but I'm also concerned about what 10 years from now Williston looks like. And you know, if the zoning says that next tract of land can also be divided into, you know, 0.05 acre home lots, think about the number of homes that we could legally, you know, that there are no codes saying we can't do it, put on that piece of property, all of which spit out onto 4th
Yeah,
Street.
we haven't even talked about the fact they're only 16 feet wide.
Right. So, thank you.
That's just crazy. 16 feet wide, each unit. Did I read that wrong? 16 by 48 or something like
Now,
that?
that agrees with the zoning, yes.
That's crazy.
You know,
The unit is 16 by 48.
it's, yeah, this is
Yeah.
this is a catch. I guess from my standpoint, the question tonight, does this match, agree with the city's code? And the answer is yes. Now, at no point does the code say that I or my client needs to conduct a study, and when that study comes back with 20 cars, 1,600 cars, that's what I'm saying, there's nothing to compare it to. There's not a chart that I know of that, well, the requirement for me to do that doesn't exist. And then you would need some sort of a, oh, no, this can't be done because of this. But those rules would have to be in the code. Now, I don't know if this would help, but I don't think the city wants to take on the thoroughfares, which are, there's 24 foot of street, then there's 20 foot of parking. So I'm going to pass that around. That's a site plan of what's proposed, and you can see it. It looks more like an apartment complex, very similar to the Arbors. Where
They are attached, aren't they?
These are attached.
Okay, they're attached.
Yeah.
And that's why we changed the zoning, so they could be attached.
Because the Arbors, you don't own the streets there. Tractor Supply, you don't own the streets there.
I mean, I actually sat in my living room reading this, and not my living room, my kitchen. I sat in my kitchen, and my kitchen is 18 feet wide and 38 feet long. And I thought, it's like a shotgun house. I mean, it's very narrow and and not 10 feet longer than my kitchen, which is very long. And I don't know if they're going to be two-story or not.
I would assume so, yes.
Yeah, so going to go up a story as well. You'd almost have to in order to have some footage.
Yep.
Well, down on 4th Street also, you've got the school. You got the Christian school right there on 4th Street as well. And that traffic will impact that school area. You're gonna put up schools, so you're gonna put up slow signs and all this, speed limit signs for the school and all this? Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, on 316 there's a school zone, but then there's no school zone for the private school on 4th Street.
But one of the things that I've talked to Chief Rolls with last week was with Kirby Farms doing the crazy train.
Yeah.
People are flying up and down 4th. But now that also happens when it's not that way with Kirby Farms.
Yeah,
Now,
softball games.
So, either, I
School
agree we
times.
have to do something to the road. Speed bumps will be probably the most inexpensive way to do it than widening the road, and just things like that.
Either that or you come out and you can only turn left. People are not going to like that if they're trying to get to Gainesville or Ocala. Ocala, they're going to turn left and they're going to go out 27.
Right.
But if they want to go to Gainesville, they'd have to go all the way around and through town. Yeah. Right.
So I was just curious.
But at least there's a light. Well, Woodfield has at least two egress and ingress.
3.
Okay, so they have a third one I'm
No, I'm
unaware
sorry.
of.
2.
Yes, you're
2.
right. Yes. Well, I think they do have two. Yeah, there's
2.
a third one. There's two in the back and one in
There's
the
2 on
front.
4th Street.
Yeah, there's two in the back and one on the front.
Yep.
And when I think about Northwood, they have at least 3. Only 2?
But similar to the Arbors, they only have 1.
Yep.
That's what this is kind of going to look like, I guess, with the parking spaces and
More like that.
townhomes and whatnot. And I don't have any problem with traffic and some sort of something. It's got to just be in the code. What triggers a stop?
Yeah.
Because right now, this complies. The next one to the north, if you reworded the code, maybe that one would have a stop sign or.
So as it is now, the code doesn't have a requirement for a traffic study?
Not that I'm familiar with.
No.
I know, I was trying to look at her. She wasn't looking at me.
We haven't had this kind of growth either, but it was coming our way at some point.
Yeah. And we really don't know what the level of service would be on the road unless we do a traffic
We did
study.
ask for a traffic study for the other development in town. It was
Yes.
much larger,
Yeah.
33 acres. This is 5 acres. And,
But it's the almost the same number of units.
That's not what triggers it, and if we want to change the code, we can do that.
I will note, Madam President, for what it's worth.
Please.
Your code does allow you to, section 56-2 is your policy regarding subdivisions, right? So this lays out what a subdivision will need. And one of the requirements is that land to be subdivided shall ensure safe and convenient traffic control. So under that policy, I believe it's appropriate for you all to require additional information before approving this preliminary plat regarding safe and effective traffic control.
Thank you. Okay, what is the will of the council?
I just have one other question, Steve.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Did the developers take into account there's a train track there and the noise? Because, don't want it to come back to the council down the road. People are complaining about the train.
They can't complain to the council about that. They might can complain to the developer about that, but they can't come back and complain to the council about a train running down the tracks that's been there for 100 years.
I couldn't answer that one, but I would assume they did not. I don't know. But I know the speed bump thing, if you go back 20 years ago, there was a subdivision that came to town and said that there's speeders and we want speed bumps. And the city put in speed bumps, and then they came to the city wanting repairs done to their cars.
Yep.
So then they took the speed bumps out. So I know at the school, I gotta take the speed bumps my last year. Those things drive you nuts. They keep you slowed down though.
At the high school, yeah, there's a bunch of
Yeah.
them. Okay, so I guess my question for the utility crew, and I can just say personally, I myself would rather have city roads so that we have jurisdiction, but I'm going to ask you, the utility crew, what concessions, if that's probably not the right word, but what agreements did we make in order to not have, do they want private roads? Or do they want us to have the roads? I mean, I can't imagine that they would want to maintain the roads forever and a day.
They would have no problem with turning the roads over to us for us to be perpetually responsible for. But when you look at the lift station and the design that was done and the work, and this also includes another development that's in a developer's agreement process right now that will bring possibly $11.5 million of infrastructure to the city. This would tie into it and reimburse partly that developer. There are water upgrades, there are sewer upgrades, there are hydrants, there are all kinds of things. There is the gas buyout. All of that is a component in utilities. The gas buyout alone.
Just for the one we're talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The gas buyout alone is around $176,000.
Meaning they're buying it out so they don't have to put it in?
Correct. So that's $176,000 worth of infrastructure that Mr. Davis talked about that goes into the gas department for upgrades that are critically needed. Same thing with water,
So
same
why
thing
would
with sewer.
we still have to do the buyout if we make them public roads? I just don't understand that. I mean, help me understand it.
Yes, they do, but again, it was part of a whole developer's conversation. Private roads also make the houses worth more for them, so there are some incentives for them. Being able to trespass people out of the development is a benefit for them.
We can trespass them too, though.
Well, let me clarify this a little bit. So once we make those roads public, they're open to the public.
Sure.
Which means there's no way we could keep the public from driving in and out of that community if they wanted to. And the sole purpose of keeping the roads private was to be able to prevent people that don't live there from going into that subdivision. Now, I don't know if that was an actual sticking point for them, but I know that that was the conversation that we had. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but once they're public, and once they're being, taxpayers' dollars are being spent to take care of them, I can drive in there, Mr. McMillan can drive in there, anybody in this room could drive in there, and you cannot make me leave.
Well, if they don't have a gate at the thing, anybody can drive in there that wants to anyway.
Well, I'm not saying they don't need a gate. I would have a gate if it was me, and our whole reason for changing our road structure for gated communities most recently was for that reason. Now, whether or not the setback sets far enough for a gate, I don't know. I'm sure there's some sort of engineering traffic study for that, or even if we could put a gate up there, or even they want a gate. I don't know if they even want a gate. But I know that was the only reason the conversation came up about private roads. I can't tell you they absolutely want private roads.
Well, if there are private roads in there and there's no gate or no reinforcement, anybody can drive in there at any time they want to.
That's right.
You can, and you can enforce laws while you're in there. There's just certain laws you cannot enforce. So.
Well, I'm not talking about enforcing that. I'm talking about the public. If I'm driving down the road, oh, these look cool. Let's just drive in there and check them out and drive around and see it.
Unless there's signage posted.
If I may.
That sign, I promise
But if
you,
you're
will not
visiting
keep
somebody,
people
you're gonna
out.
go in.
I don't think anybody in this room wants to start having these properties, these developments cordoned off from other developments. We don't want all these gated communities where we're separating each other from our neighbors. That's not what we're looking at. You guys want me to do a traffic study, see if we can get another entrance, I can do that. But whether it's gonna be gated or not gated, I don't think that's city council's choice. Am I right, Kirsten, she left?
That's fine. You do the traffic study, but what I'm saying is, a sign or nothing, it's not going to stop people from driving in there if they want to drive in there, if they don't live there, period. It's just not going to happen.
Would council prefer that they were public streets? Because we can make that change very easily.
No, I'm not even saying that. They want the private seats, they can
I
keep the
would look
private
back here to
street.
my police chief and say to him, does he want them to be public streets? If he wants them to be public streets for his jurisdiction, and he's shaking his head at me, so if he says yes, I say yes.
And how do we pay for those?
They're gonna build them.
Yes, ma'am, but we have to maintain them.
Wait a minute.
They're gonna be brand new.
Okay, you're going to maintain those. Those are going to be brand-new streets on there. There's some problems on 4th Street right now that needs to be maintained.
Yes, sir.
And it's not maintained.
Because we don't have the money.
Well, then, that's fine. But I'm just saying, if you're going to maintain streets, you got to start somewhere with the existing streets.
Yeah, I mean, we've got streets in our neighborhood that are falling apart too.
That's right. $42 million worth of capital needs. So we're going to add more capital needs.
No,
We're
you're not going to
They're
add to
gonna
it. It's
build
just
brand new
already out
streets.
there.
We're not gonna build them. They have to build them in order to do the project.
So I think if they're public streets, don't we have to cut the grass and stuff next to it? Yeah. So we'll have to go back to the drawing board with this one. Sorry, Stephen.
And it doesn't, just so you understand my position, I don't care whether they're city or private, doesn't matter to me. They're gonna be built to the level of all of what we're requiring, whether they're public, private, it doesn't matter. So to that respect, I'm good.
Right. I'm glad we made that change, so that's the case. I wish we had done that earlier. Because now we have complications in other places that I really don't want to have inside a subdivision.
And that's why it was done that way.
Yeah.
So.
And I think it would be helpful to have a second egress and ingress, so that they're not all lined up trying to get out at one time on the same street.
So I'm just curious. We set a code to go by. So now we're going through this and saying, well, we need to make this change, this change. Are we gonna do this to every subdivision that's gonna come in?
Well, I think that there were actually concessions that were made by staff that aren't necessarily code.
I'm just asking though.
They aren't necessarily code. It was just
Okay.
concessions that were made. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, no,
And did I
actually.
misunderstand
No, you
that?
misunderstood that, because this plat is to code, and we are supposed to pass the plat to code. If you want engineering changes to the code, we have to change the code.
I know the plan is to code,
Right.
but nothing said they had to be private streets. Nothing said there had to be only one egress and ingress.
No, but the code doesn't tell you have to have both.
I know, but as a governing body, we have the right to say that we want it different. That's what it's doing here.
Staff understood that 316 is not a city street.
Right, it's a county road.
So when staff has preliminary conversations with people who are contacts in DOT, and they take a peek at it, and they go,
Not DOT, in this case.
FDOT, 316, when we have conversations with them, they mention how close 4th Street is, if you were to have an entrance on 316. And they who work in those fields just hinted that they thought it would be very difficult to get approved an entrance that close to a street.
They'll just have to move the entrance.
I know, but it's not a state highway. Correct? I know you're saying you talked to DOT, but please tell me that, is it or is it not a state highway?
It's a county road.
Thank you.
County Road 316.
Thank you.
Which is run through DOT.
Never heard that before. DOT doesn't maintain it, the county does. I don't know where we are.
Okay. I think that I can provide us a little bit of a roadmap.
I wish you would. That's why we love you.
You are at, if we divide this up into the 3 stages of your review, in the very near future, you are at stage 1. Stage 1 is your preliminary plat review. For stage 1, you need to determine if the preliminary plat meets your code. Per my earlier comment, I believe that if you find you don't have sufficient information regarding traffic, you can request that information from the developer in order to understand whether or not this complies with your code. I'll caution you against saying things like, this complies with our code, because if you find you don't have enough information to determine whether or not this, for instance, ensures safe and convenient traffic flows, then you do not have that information with you yet. So that, the traffic situation is one thing. There is no requirement at this time that you have to determine which roads are going to be public, which roads are going to be private. So you are at phase 1, which is preliminary plat review. The next thing that comes before you is the construction plan review. The construction plan will give you a lot more detail about what's going to go in here. Then you're going to have your final plat review. Final plat review is where you'll have to make a firm decision regarding what's going to be public, what's going to be private. And then after that, there is additional discussion that we have with the developer regarding any developers agreements that we're going to enter. So those are all things that you will have a couple of bites at the apple on this particular thing. And you can say, you know, we believe that these should be public, we believe that these should be private, et cetera, et cetera. Right now, what you're determining is, does this preliminary plat meet your code? If you find that you don't have sufficient information regarding ensuring convenient and safe traffic flows, you can say that you do not have the information that you need. If you find that, for instance, in this preliminary plat, the spaces that are designated for public use are spaces that you do not feel are appropriate or within your code, and that's for Laura to tell you about, and that you don't want them to be for public use, or that you do want them to be for public use, that is what you would list. But if this plat you find meets all of the requirements of your code, you must approve it. So I will caution throwing around those kinds of statements unless we have the information that we know. If it does truly meet the code, then that's what we're here to determine. But if you need additional information, that's what you're here to do today, and you have a couple more bites of the apple.
Okay. Everybody understand that?
Mhm.
So, do you feel like we need more information?
I know we need a traffic study here taking into consideration of the school that's on 4th Street, close to 27 there, before, at least if it came to a vote, that's the way I would be voting.
Yes.
And I, as the city manager, would be curious whether or not we can have an exit onto County Road 316 to alleviate some of those issues that we're talking about. I don't know why we never considered it until thinking about it now. So would that play into it? And it's just a food for thought for the rest of the council.
Okay. Mr. Cox?
If we were to do a road out onto 316, as Mr. Barber, I believe, stated, it's gonna be close to where Fourth comes to 316, correct?
Yes, but we don't need to determine that now,
I know that.
according to the
But
attorney.
that's a hazard. They come out, make a right, you got somebody going left, can cause wrecks.
They
So
could also
that's just
go
my-
left to Ocala.
They can do that anywhere.
No, they'd have to get on Fourth and turn left, and then go to 316 and turn right. And it's, I mean, so that's not even what we need to consider at this point. The point is, do we have sufficient information for traffic? If we don't, we're going to send it back. If you think you have sufficient information, then we make it go forward.
I'm good with it.
You're good with it? Ms. Hines?
More information.
I feel like we need more information as well. So, if you'll get us, I guess that means a traffic study, and maybe a conversation with the county as to whether the road could be used, and conversation with the police chief, whether or not he wants the public versus private, which is a totally different issue altogether. And I know we have more bites of the apple, but if we're going to have the engineer change things, I'd rather change it sooner than later and make him change it in the middle of a final plat.
And I understand that it meets code, as you said, totally agree with you in that respect. However, this additional information, to
We
get
don't-
all the information that we have before we can approve
We
it.
actually don't know if it meets code until we get the additional information.
And my decision to say yes is based on the fact of many years driving Gainesville. Like I said, 62nd, many times. It works.
But do we want it here?
It's going to come here whether we like it or not in the future, or down the road.
Okay, y'all have your marching orders.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're gonna, I guess, table that for now. Motion to table.
Until we get
Oh,
that
no,
information.
I think we don't table it. Don't we?
Okay.
You'll,
If the
you'll
word
take-
is not table, I'm just returning it to you then.
You'll take a vote
They
on
have to-
whether or
you have
not
to-
it meets the code.
Okay, you want a motion?
Right, approval or denial of the
All right.
preliminary plat is what you'll need. Approval with conditions, that's also something that you can do. You can
Right.
say, we approve this conditioned upon X, Y, and Z.
Right.
That's something that you're allowed to do, or deny.
Which is what we would do after the traffic study if we felt like it needed it. All right, so I need a motion to return it to planning for additional information on the traffic.
Hold on, Stephen
Oh,
wants to say
sorry,
something.
Mr. McMillan.
Quick question. If a traffic study comes back and says 40 cars go north at 8 a.m., 60 cars go south, under obviously built-out conditions,
Right.
and one person walks to the school because they teach there, I don't know what it'll give you, but it's going to give you some sort of a chart or a traffic flow. Are you talking about traffic flow conditions of 4th Street now? Or are we talking about traffic flow after this is built out? And then if it tells you those things, how do you compare, where's the cutoff that's going to say, we nix this whole subdivision because you don't really have a number?
To me, it's the impact on build-out. And y'all correct me if you don't feel the same way. To me, it's the impact that it would have on build-out.
Right.
And it also, as Laura said earlier, the level of service of the road. If it's, let's say it's a B now, and it goes to a C, that would be significant. If it's and I know it's not an A, we'll just say.
It's probably a C.
You think it's a C already? C.
Most of our streets are Cs.
If it's a C already, it may impact it and take it out of the realm of.
I understand.
Yeah, that's the way I would judge it. I don't know about anybody else. I'm seeing attorney agree, so. All right, so I need a motion to do whatever it is y'all want to do. I can't tell you what to do.
Do we make a motion just to send it back, or do we make a motion to approve with the additional
No.
information, or?
You can, so
How do you approve it?
I mean, we could
you
actually.
can approve it,
Information.
you can deny it, you can approve it conditional upon a traffic study prior to the construction plan and the final plat for you to review, or conditioned upon other such things. I'm just saying the traffic study because that's what we've been talking about. Prior
Okay.
to construction and final plat review.
But if we approve it conditioned upon the study, and then that study comes back and that does not meet with our approval, how does that work?
You still have your construction plan review and your final plat review in order to address those issues.
So we actually could
Am I not
approve
answering
it.
the question?
We could
No.
actually approve the preliminary with more information coming forth for the final, or for the construction and final.
That's correct. You could condition it, so what I hear the council president saying, and this is not me saying this is what you can do, but an option for you is to approve it with the condition that they complete a traffic study and that it is only approved if it does not bring the road below a sea level.
Yep.
Based upon the results of that traffic study. If that's your will, that is an option for you.
Or we could deny it and send it back for the traffic study and then have another discussion after the fact.
That is correct.
Could do any of those things.
As long as that meeting is publicly noticed
Yeah, sure.
properly. yeah.
Absolutely.
Because you have other issues you brought up too. It's
Yes.
not just the traffic study.
That's right.
That's why
I
it makes
would-
no sense to approve it conditionally.
And I really would like for them to discuss it with the police chief, and also with actually EMS and other emergency services as to egress and ingress, too.
Did you make
Emergency
my-
services saw it, it's part of our review. Fire.
Fire department with the big trucks reviewed it and had no issue with it.
We've never given plats to police, but we're very happy to do so.
I think if we're going to consider making a subdivision a private road, that we should have them review it. And I realize the policy probably doesn't say that, or the
I'll
plan.
give them everything, it doesn't bother me, then they can at least see it and see if there's any problems.
Okay,
Before we get to this point.
I still need a motion.
Did she make a motion?
I didn't hear a motion. I heard another option.
I can give them all my permits, too. And more permits to review.
Mm-hmm.
So I make a motion that we deny until we get further information related to traffic studies, etc.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Do I have any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Please let the record show that Mr. Cox voted no. Thank you. And don't think we're against it. We just want to build a better place to live.
I've been
And
here
not
a
im-
long, I've
and
been here
not-
a long time. You're
and-
not gonna chase me off.
And not impact the people who do already live here in the same neighborhood. Yes, we're going to take a 5-minute break for the cause. Thank you. You just want to go home, huh?
Oh, I'm gonna drive this thing out.